What is the best jet in top tier? Well guys, we are getting more and more 14.0 jets, and today I wanted to talk about what I think is probably the best jet you can have right now. And it might be even kind of a tip for you to grind that aircraft because of that, right? We have F-18s, we have the Eurofighter, we have the Su-30, we have the Rafal, and yeah, we have the F-15E as well. Multiple 14.0 aircraft. There are still nations that still don't have one, like China and Japan, but between all these that I talked about, what is the best 14.0? What is the best jet? Well, we start off trying to minimize the list, basically, right? Let's try to eliminate the ones that are clearly not the best jet. I think we can include the F-18 here. Yes, the F-18 is one of the best aircraft in the game, and it is pretty good. It is really, really good, actually. But at the same time, it lacks one thing that I still believe that it is one of the most important things for somebody to actually be the best in the game, which is speed. Yes, although it has a lot of acceleration, it lacks top speed, which is something that all the other ones have to actually be able to compete in this. And why is that? Well, there's two reasons. One of them, speed. It is going to be one of the most important things because you need to fire your BVR missiles. If you don't have speed, you cannot fire them very well. The second thing is that obviously if you're gonna talk about what is the best aircraft, it needs to be, amazing at everything, right? So of course, if it lacks top speed, it will not be included in here. Again, don't get me wrong, the F-18 is still one of the best aircraft in the game. It's just not the best because of that reason. Well, other ones as well, minor ones. The Raider, there are better Raiders out there, etc. But the main thing for me is that the speed makes this aircraft to be a little bit harder to use in the BVR arena, okay? What about the Su-30? Well, the Su-30, I still believe that is one of the best aircraft in the game, but it's not the best. Why is that? Well, although it does have a lot of max speed and it is better than the F-18, it is a heavy aircraft, and being the first SM model, it doesn't have a lot of thrust. It uses the FP engines, which are pretty much just an AL31F, which means that it's very heavy and it uses pretty much the same thrust as a 1980s Su-27, right? So heavy, and it carries a lot of weapons, but it doesn't have the engine power, which means that in a dogfight, this thing can beat basically everything, and it can get up to speed very quickly, and it has a pretty good missiles and a very good radar, one of the best in the game. But at the same time, there are better aircraft in acceleration out there, which means that getting out of a dogfight in the middle of a furball, for example, or maintaining that dogfight if needed, if you didn't get the kill very early on, it means that you're gonna get killed with the Su-30 because you don't have the power. Okay, so although I love my Su-30 SM and I think it is one of the best aircraft in the game, for the average player, I still believe that it lacks that a little bit of thrust to weight to be able to be considered the best. Then we go to talk about the F-15E and I, of course. Both these aircraft have speed and acceleration, and yeah, probably one of the best in the game in that. But why don't I consider that aircraft the best? Because it lacks on the ability of turn. Well, does it really lack? No, it's still a very good dogfighter and it can still very much do a lot of things. But at the same time, it is an aircraft that it is heavier than the other ones. It doesn't have thrust vectoring that helps, even though with a heavy weight the Su-30 SM does do its job in a dogfight. So at the end of the day, it is an aircraft that lacks a little bit on that regard. So it is amazing in acceleration, speed, missiles, the radar is pretty good, but once it comes to dogfights, it will probably be on a disadvantage, although small, compared to all the other 14.0s in the game. So that's why I don't think the F-15E is the best in the game. And then we come down to the last two, the Rafale and the Eurofighter. Although I'm personally inclined to talk about the Eurofighter because I like the aircraft a little bit more. It is really hard to compare the two. They have a very similar performance, a very similar turning capability, and it comes down to very minor things. One is a little bit better for BVR because of the missiles, one is better for a dogfight. So how do we kind of settle this? Well, it doesn't really matter, to be honest. At first, a small disclaimer, either or are considered the best aircraft still in the game. You know, you can still fly the Rafale, you can still fly the Eurofighter, and they will both do the same job very well. But we have to choose one. So which of these we're gonna choose? So between the two, what can we say? Well, it's complicated because, you know, the Rafale is better at dogfighting, for example. It turns a little bit more, so a point for it. It has a Magic 2, which is a better missile for short range. The Mika, which is a better missile for short range radar. It has a better radar. The performance is pretty much the same in the terms of climbing. So it's easy to talk about the Rafale, but the Eurofighter has a better BVR missile. You know, it has a better, you know, climb and acceleration. It has a better top speed. So it's really down to the player itself. What I'm about to say, it might be controversial, but I believe the Rafale is a better option out there, you know, but you have to have skill. What I mean about that is that the Rafale in the hands of a skilled player can be the best aircraft by far. You know, it's an aircraft that will push the limits a little bit in a more aggressive way. At the same time, the Eurofighter will be an easier aircraft. Why is that? Well, it has a higher max speed, for example, so sometimes it is easier to break the wings of the Rafale. You know, the Rafale doesn't have the range with the M120, which means that if you try to use BVR with the Mika, if you don't know what you're doing, you're gonna just waste missiles. So at the end of the day, the Eurofighter is an easier aircraft to fly for the average player that doesn't really know, you know, how to do BVR, how to do dogfights in top tier. But the Rafale is the one that I think, if in the hands of a skilled player, can really do well and be the best aircraft, you know. The RWR with the MAWs is better as well on the Rafale, so it means that you are a little bit more defensive in the terms of, you know, the system, you know, just covers a little bit more. It doesn't tell the distance of the missile, but it doesn't really matter. It just will self-protect a little bit more as well. So the radar is better. Everything on the Rafale is supposed to be better. I think the only thing that you have to worry about on the thing is that the Mika will not have the range. So if you fly low, you can get a lot of kills. And even if you fly high, you have the performance to make the Mika a BVR missile. It will just have less range than M120, so you have to be careful. But with the better radar, you know, it levels it out. Of course, the M9M is a little bit better in the longer ranges of an IR shot missile, but still the Magic 2 is a better missile for short range. So at the end of the day, I think the Rafale is a better aircraft, although the Eurofighter is an easier aircraft. So if you are getting into top tier, maybe the Eurofighter is for you. If you've been playing for top tier for a long time and you know the inner mechanics of that, the Rafale is the aircraft for you. So yeah, I consider the Rafale the best aircraft in the game. Not by a huge margin, but it is the best in my opinion. By 1%, maybe 2%, but it's still, I think, a little bit, you can push a little bit more. So yeah, I see you guys on the next one. Let me know in the comments what you think. It is the best aircraft in the game, and I see you guys on the next one. Bye guys, see you.